Good morning, everybody. Mark Finan here in the home weather office on this Wednesday morning. It is now the 8th day of January 2025, and this is the morning briefing coming from the home weather office. And as I look out the window, there are a few high clouds out there, but I'll tell you, it's still kind of early for me, just after sunrise, and I did see a nice little sunrise off to the east, but all in all, just another quiet morning. Not quite as cold, but still a rather chilly morning. Didn't see any frost out there, but it is a rather cool morning. What we're going to talk about today is wind, and I'm also going to get on my soapbox a little bit about weather reporting regarding the fires down south. I'll get to that here in just a second. So let's start with what is happening this morning. And as you can see, look at this flow. You can just see it on the satellite. You can look at how the clouds go in this direction. And you get to Southern California and the clouds are going offshore. So clearly there's a big ridge here. There's a trough here. You can see the clouds going this way down south of Arizona. So here is that big trough we've been looking at, and that sets up that offshore flow. The winds did peak during the overnight hours. The winds are now decreasing, and there will be a lot less wind in Southern California today, and I'll show you more on that here in just a second. So let's zoom in a little bit on Southern California. And so for that, I'm also here on GOES 18, and what I'm looking at here are the fire signatures. Now, the Pacific Palisades fire that is getting all the headlines, and rightly so, because of the damage there. That fire is right in here. It isn't putting up as much of a signature as we saw late last night. However, the fires going on, I think there are two of them that are on the eastern side of Los Angeles. Those fires still continue to put up a pretty good signature here. You see smoke coming off, but it's also mixed in with some high clouds that are coming by as well. But what we're looking for here are the heat signatures, and in the Pacific Palisades area, that fire is putting up a lot less heat, and it does look as though that is a lot less intense than it was even just a few hours ago, as I record this a little after 7 o'clock in the morning. But as you can see here, we still have a very intense fire signature. The damage from the Pacific Palisades fire, the Palisades fire, is awful. And the winds yesterday afternoon and then last night did get quite strong. But what I'm quite irritated about, not just with this case, but in almost most cases when you see a weather story reported from a national perspective, things get distorted and lines get tossed out and data gets cherry-picked. And I saw a case of that this morning. Now, I'll tell you, I only saw this one story because I wasn't paying attention to a lot of news, but I did see one correspondent talking about 100-mile-an-hour winds in Southern California, and even talking about Category 4 hurricane winds in Southern California. Now, I'm not trying to minimize the damage, the fire intensity, none of that. So I really want to make that distinction. I am not minimizing the fire itself. What I am going to criticize here is the reporting of the wind aspect of it. Have the winds been bad? Yes. Have they been 100-mile-an-hour winds? Well, let's take a look. The National Weather Service in Los Angeles did put out a list of winds in Southern California. These are wind gusts. And so this is a list from NWS LA. And as you can see, this list is extensive. And what you have here is the maximum wind speed. So these are wind gusts and the time that they happened. And so as we go through this, let's go to the western Santa Monica Mountains. An 80-mile-an-hour wind, 70-mile-an-hour winds, all the way down to max gusts of 30 to 40 mile an hour. And as we go through these, they do go by region and then by top speed down to lower speed. So, 70, 80-mile-an-hour winds, that's plenty bad. Why do you have to report that they're 105, 110 miles an hour? Up here, the western San Gabriel Mountains, a gust of 90, but then most others are down in the 50, 60 range. Let's go a little bit farther south, the western San Fernando Valley, a gust of 70. And then down, most other areas are getting gusts around 50. And again, 50-mile-an-hour wind gusts, 60, 70-mile-an-hour wind gusts, those are destructive. You don't have to report 110-mile-an-hour winds. The western Antelope Valley foothills, generally top gusts are in the mid-50s. Ventura County, inland, upper 50s to around 60. And again, these are very strong winds. In Ventura County, Point Mugu, 49 mile an hour gust. That happened yesterday morning. Southern Ventura County, winds gusting 50, 60. Southeastern Ventura County, 50, 60. A couple is in the upper 70s. Let's go down to the next region here. San Ynez Valley, gusts into the 30s. The mountains, 40s to around 50. The mountains in the eastern range. You get the picture here. The winds have been plenty strong. 60, 70 mile an hour, a couple of spots with some gusts up around 80. I did find one spot with a gust of 100 miles an hour, but as you can see, with the dozens and dozens of sites that I'm showing you here, this is not what I expected to see after I saw that national report this morning. Santa Barbara County, gusts into the mid-40s. Santa Barbara County, southeastern coast, a gust of 52, but most other gusts are into the 40s. So where are the 100 mile an hour winds that I was seeing reported on the national news this morning? Malibu coast, 66 miles an hour, 65 miles an hour. And why don't you just report that the winds were gusting to mid 60s? That's plenty bad. You don't have to exaggerate. Los Angeles County, San Gabriel Valley, 72. There is one 100 coming up in here. I'll find it. Let's see, Los Angeles County beaches, upper 50s to around 60. Sandberg had a gust of 70. Saddle Peak had a gust of 98 in the eastern Santa Monica Mountains. And here it is, Mount Lucan's Truck Trail. At 5 o'clock this morning, had a gust of 100. So as you can see, if you're seeing reports of 100 mile an hour or stronger winds in Southern California, somebody is exaggerating and cherry picking data. So again, I'm not trying to minimize the damage, the fires, any of that. That is all really, really bad. My pet peeve has always been with national reporting of weather events, cherry picking data, and exaggerating. All right. So with that, let me talk more about the weather and what's going on. And I'm going to focus on Southern California again, because as I mentioned, the winds are really coming down. And for that, I'll just look at one spot, but this is going to be really indicative of a lot of spots. So let's look at Point Mugu here. And as this slowly comes up, let's go to wind. Oh, it doesn't want to come up. Maybe another spot will come up. Let's see, what about the Van Nuys Airport? Oh, come on. The maximum wind gust was 61 here. Unfortunately, the graph isn't coming up, but what you would see here is that the stronger winds happened overnight and first thing this morning, and the winds are now in the process of coming down. Unfortunately, that aspect of this presentation is not working. It happens. All right, so let's talk about how things are going to be changing here. Here's that big low, that offshore flow that I showed you with the satellite, and big ridge. But as that low moves out, the winds decrease. The winds are already decreasing. They'll stay offshore, and humidity will stay quite low. So for the firefighters that are working on the existing fires, they're not going to get cool temperatures or onshore flow to really help things out. The flow will generally stay offshore. This turns into the snowstorm back east that I'll show you here more on in just a minute. But for the western states, this ridge holds. Little trough goes by. This is getting into the weekend. This is Saturday. Little trough goes by. And unfortunately, this latest model brings in another inside slider early next week and develops into yet another cutoff low. We'll have to see what this does with winds and wind potential for next week. This solution is a little bit different than the one we have right now. And so we'll have to see how that works out. But there's the potential we could see more offshore wind in Southern California, especially right around here. And should be next Tuesday, I think. Yeah, this is next Tuesday. So we'll have to see what happens there. But otherwise, things are looking relatively quiet across the country, except for the potential for this weekend storm. And we've been watching this one. Now watch what happens down here in Texas. Here it is developing. This is Thursday night. We have the low developing here off the coast of Texas. bringing up moisture from the Gulf, interacting with cold air to produce snow in Oklahoma and northern Texas. And again, this is Thursday night. As we head into the day on Friday, this begins to race off to the east with a deep low along the Gulf Coast. A lot of snow through northern Georgia, throughout Tennessee and the Tennessee Valley. And then as we head into the day on Saturday, we're going to have to see what happens with this developing low here. This is Saturday morning, but this is a much faster solution, a less snowy solution along the mid-Atlantic than some previous models had been. But we'll see what happens with that. Otherwise, this is Sunday. Look at how quiet it is, relatively speaking, across the country. And then that lasts into next week. This is Monday, Tuesday of next week. Relatively quiet all across the country. And the other thing I'll note here is that the 540 thickness line, an indication of where the boundary between warm and cold air is, if you will, this is next Thursday. It's all the way up into the Canadian border. So as we've been talking about the deep freeze throughout much of the country, it looks as though that'll be easing next week. And yeah, then maybe 10 days from now or so we get back to some active weather. But right now, next week looks as though it's going to be relatively quiet across the country once we get past that potential East Coast snowstorm on Saturday. So that's everything I've got for you this morning. And again, apologies for getting on my soapbox a little bit this morning, but national reporting of weather events is just something that irritates me. The situation's bad enough. The data doesn't have to be exaggerated. That's my point. The fires are bad. The winds are bad. Don't exaggerate it to make it sound even worse than it is weather-wise. Again, I'm not minimizing the damage and potential for fire there at all. So that's everything I've got for you this morning. It is going to be quiet and dry in Northern California for the next couple of days. Get out and enjoy it if you can. Make it a great day. I'll talk with you later.